Hi, welcome to Infusion, the podcast. I'm comedian Chris Patrick, aka self-proclaimed Power Man, and I'm here with my co-host and significant other, Rach.
Hey guys.
Now today we got an interesting show. We got a guy here by the name of Gail Wolf, who's a metaphysical carpenter. He's going to explain to us what exactly a metaphysical carpenter is. But before we get started, Gail, I just want to say congratulations to your sister, Tani Wolf, who's married to my friend and Rach's friend, the one and only Fancy Ray McCloney. So, Gail, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate the applause and all the audience. So great to be in touch with you guys right now.
So you say you're a metaphysical carpenter. What exactly is a metaphysical carpenter?
Yeah, just the name alone is just a little bit it's a little bit different, and
makes me think of
because
makes me think of Jesus.
Well, actually, that's not a bad idea. I hadn't thought about that because Jesus technically, I think he was a carpenter among many other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So metaphysical carpenter it's like I've always been a carpenter. I've worked with wood since I was about 8 years old, maybe even a little bit younger. I started doing things with wood, and it was just building things and putting things together, and 4-H projects and home furnishings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, about the age of 30, I had a massive spiritual awakening that just really rocked me to the foundation. And it really brought this whole spiritual side into my life, where I got into meditation. I got into doing intuitive readings for people and started to see the world more through an energetic perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I became extremely sensitive to energies, especially energies within people, energies within food. I literally went through a phase where I couldn't eat a hamburger or any meat because I would feel the fear that the animal went through when it got slaughtered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of that.
I just was having experiences like that over and over and over. And over the years, I just dealt with a number of different sensitivities. And so I've just started to, get really attuned to the energetic world. And I started to study things like golden ratio. I started to, was also getting, a handful of years ago, 5-6 years ago, I was getting a lot of dreams and a lot of visions
Mm-hmm.
of seeing copper wires, copper pipe, bent in different configurations, mixed in with some like gemstones, like crystals and different amethyst and different stones like that, and having that create energetic fields that would heal the human body. Well, it crossed my mind that why wouldn't that be inside our home furnishings? So why would we just have an ordinary, for example, coffee table sitting in the middle of the room? Why not have a coffee table that is removing the negative energy from the room and infusing a room with positive healing frequencies?
Okay.
And so that curiosity drove me, between the visions and the desire to heal people, is really what drove me to fuse my energetic side, if you will, with my carpentry side.
Mm-hmm.
And I've discovered a number of different technologies along the way, in ways to bend copper, in ways to create tensor rings with copper, to create specific healing frequencies, what those healing frequencies actually do for the human body, and just coming up with all kinds of creative ways to infuse that into furniture that's built according to the golden ratio.
Okay,
so to make a long story as short as I can, that's basically what I mean by metaphysical carpentry.
Okay, so what exactly is in your furniture and the stuff you build?
So at this point, what I've been doing is I've been using a lot of tensor rings.
Tensor? What'd you say? Tensor ring?
Tensor.
Tensor.
It's it's Tensor. And what's interesting about tensor, and tensor is an actual word. It's an energetic word.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's actually tensor fields that can be created. So to give you a little bit of an explanation, you have energetic fields that electricians work with, right?
Yeah.
They deal with the flow of electrons moving in a certain direction. Well, then you also have on the other side of that, you've got magnetic. You've got magnetic fields that can exist.
Okay.
Well, then you've got, the Earth operates on that, and planetary systems, and so on and so forth. Well, then there's also tensor fields, and tensor fields operate in a spectrum that sits between energy or electricity and magnetism, magnetic fields. Tensor fields sit right in the middle of that. And what makes a tensor field is it operates from the 0 point energy frequency, which, if you know anything about 0 point, it's the nexus of all creation. It's basically where there is absolute zero, there's absolutely nothing there, and all you have is potentiality. And all you need is a spark of a direction or a spark of inspiration, if you will, to create whatever it is that you want to create out of that. And tensor rings create that 0 point field right in the center of them. And you can create a tensor ring by taking a piece of copper. And what's interesting about copper is the electrons in copper flow in one direction and they won't flow the other direction. So they just one direction is the only direction they'll flow. And so what you can do is they found, and this guy in South Dakota by the name of Slim Spurling discovered this, that if you take a copper rod and you put it into a circle or a copper wire, it'll create a spiral energetic vortex. And the problem with that is the vortex or the copper ring on its own will pull a negative charge on one side and put a positive charge on the other side. You literally had to be careful what direction you would point those rings, because you could either pull energy from you or give you energy. So the way he got around this was you take a piece of wire, you bend it in half, and then you twist it. You twist it really tight, and then you take that long strand of twisted wire and you can cut it at a specific dimension. And depending on the dimension that you cut that in, when you go to turn it into a ring, you can create different megahertz of healing frequencies. And so the best way to nail that down is if you think about, if you're familiar with arpeggio frequencies that they put into music sometimes, it's like subliminal music that like it's aimed at healing the heart or aimed at healing emotional trauma or upliftment or focus. Well, you can create the same energetic fields in the megahertz spectrum, which is where these tensor rings operate.
So what exactly do you put these tensor rings in?
Well, you put them in like cutting boards and stuff like that, right? And that can feed energy into your food, right?
Yes, that's where. Yes, that's been really my main focus in the last little while is developing the what I call frequency cutting boards. And so I've been building these cutting boards that are built according to the golden ratio, and I love it because the main one that I build is 11 by 11, so it's an 11-11 board. I just love that, light and light. And I've got 3 different tensor ring sizes that I put in there. One of them operates on 144 megahertz.
Okay.
The other one, and that one is great for community. It's great for creativity. It's great for connectivity. Then the other one I put in there is 188 megahertz. And that frequency is really great for self-empowerment. It's really great for setting boundaries. It's really great for discernment, making choices. It's a very firm and grounding frequency. And then the third frequency that I've been working with is 528 megahertz. And this is the frequency of love. And this one is the most popular one that people seem to be drawn to. And the 528 is really a beautiful frequency. It's one of those that, I hold it next to my heart or hold it next to any part of my body or hold my head. And I just start to feel good in that area. And the real beauty of these is when I put them in a cutting board, it literally draws, that literally removes the negative energy, and it infuses the food that you put there with those healing frequencies, whichever frequency that you've chosen.
Okay, so can all right.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get a visual of it. So I got a cutting board.
Yeah.
It has this
Yep.
this copper wiring in it, right? And say I take
Yep.
a steak.
Yep.
I take a steak and then I throw a piece of beef on there, a piece of beef steak on there, and I'm chopping off the fat and all that. I use it just like a regular cutting board, or
Yep. That's it.
or like
it.
or like if I
Yep.
take a chicken and I'm like chopping a chicken up or something like that. It just that the metal inside the board will come up into the chicken. Then when I cook the chicken, or
Yes, the energy inside the board will. The frequencies within the board. And the cool thing is too, it's not just the tensor rings that do it. The dimensions that I've infused into the board, for example, like the 1111 board, for example, there are 1, 2, 3.
Now you say 1111. Is that 11 inches, 11 feet, or?
Yeah, sorry about that. It's 11 inches by 11 inches.
Okay.
And the boards are striped. I use maple and walnut for the wood.
Pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And the wood is cut according to the divine ratio.
Mm-hmm.
And so the golden ratio, they're essentially the same thing. And that is the ratio that is found in our DNA. It's the ratio that's found in the molecules of plant life, or the cells of plants. It's found in our human cells. It's found in the spacing between the planets in our solar system. Everything that is created in the natural world is built according to 1.618, and that is the golden ratio. And so the wood slats that I use for the cutting boards are cut according to the golden ratio. So each one is sized specifically for that, so that literally even the wood itself, it utilizes the principles of just nature, divine creation, and source, for lack of a better word. So
okay. Well, I know when you make cutting boards, you take pieces of wood and you glue them together. Then you put them on a plank or whatever. Then that files them down, and you got to keep filing them down. Back to 7th grade wood shop, you glue the pieces of wood together, then you put it in a plank, and then that planks it down to where you get every piece of wood at the same level. Then you put shellac on it and all that other stuff. And
yep, yeah, and it's I do exactly that, and I use a 4-stage finishing process, which is it's so anal and beyond the call of duty. However, to me, these boards deserve it.
Right.
Where I actually plane it down, like you're saying,
mm-hmm.
and then I hit it with a rough grit sandpaper, and then I put the board in water, and then I let it dry, and then I sand it again, then I put it in water again, I let it dry, and then I sand it again, put it in water, and I let it dry. And what that does is when you put wood like that in water, it swells the grains of the wood. And then when it swells the grains of the wood, then you sand it down. When you go to use that cutting board, and like you're not supposed to soak a wooden cutting board in the sink, but everybody does it. Everybody, at some point you're just going to saturate your board and it's going to soak in the water. Well, what happens if you don't go through that wetting process is you end up with a cutting board that the grains all swell up, and then the cutting board doesn't last as long. It loses its color, the grains open up, you end up with bacteria inside the wood more readily, and so the finishing process is pretty special to the boards themselves.
And it lasts. Your product lasts.
And it lasts. Yeah, it lasts.
Mm-hmm.
It lasts. and it's designed to.
What about like when you're one of the things I found, because I don't I do most of the cooking in the house, but one of the things I found with wood cutting boards is that when you chop on them and you chop on them, you start to get nicks in the wood, and then all of a sudden it starts to fall apart, and then like you said, after a few years or something like that, depending on the board, you have to throw it away.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's what's cool is there are natural ways to keep your board up to snuff. And so one thing you can do, and I do this probably, well, not as often as I should, if I'm really going to be honest about it, but about every 2 months or so, it's a good idea to just disinfect the board. And you can just take like a rough pink sea salt and spread some of that out on the board, and you just cut a lemon in half, and you take that lemon and you squeeze the juice as you're rubbing that salt into the board. So you literally just take a half a lemon, rub the salt into the board with the lemon and the lemon juice, and you just use a tight circular motion all over the board. And then you let that lemon juice and salt just kind of soak into the board. And then after that dries, you just do a quick rinse, let that dry, and then you can take a coconut oil and just a regular old napkin or paper towel, and you rub in circular motions that coconut oil 2 or 3 different times over the surface of that board, and it brings it right back to life. And the other thing is coconut oil is also antibacterial, which is pretty cool. Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
Well, that's
those are a couple tips to get some good longevity out of your board.
Well, that's what happened to me because our oldest daughter, she years ago, she they were living in Marshall. They weren't living in Minneapolis, and I went down there and she's like, I made you this cutting board. And I went, oh, cool. So I got the board and I started using it, and I started to see scratches in it. So I just put it up because I didn't want to wreck it because I know she had spent so much time making it.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. It bums you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This podcast is coming out right around Thanksgiving. And is there any special like traditions that you do around Thanksgiving, or any special dishes that you're looking forward to?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, last year I quartered up a turkey and did turkey on the grill, and made a brine out of this recipe that I found online. It was just phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to the turkey. Looking forward to the turkey and doing that on the grill again.
Absolutely.
So that was pretty amazing.
Which one of your cutting boards are you going to use?
Well, for that one, I'm going to use the 11 by 22 because that's more like the flatter size board.
Okay.
And in that one, I've got two tensor rings.
Okay.
So it's 11 by 22. So it's 22 inches wide by 11 or 22 inches long by 11 wide. And so every 11 inches, I've got one tensor ring in there. So there's 2 tensor rings. And so I'll use that for the chicken, or I'm sorry, the turkey. And then I'll just use a regular 11-11 cutting board for doing all of the, just like the vegetables and that kind of thing. And
sure.
And I like to leave the vegetables sit. Like I'll cut them all up and I'll just leave them sit on the board.
Okay.
For a couple minutes or so, just to let the board work its magic on them. Okay. And that's what I normally do.
So can we go back just a few steps? Okay, so you take the wood back to the making of, you take the wood, you glue them together, you plane it down. How exactly do you and I'm trying to get a visual on this. How exactly do you put the metal into the boards?
Gotcha. Sure. So after I do the initial planing and I do the initial sanding, or after the plane and I do the initial sanding, which I do with a belt sander, which is a pretty rough initial sand. Mm-hmm. What I'll do then is I'll cut all the boards to size. So I've got them right at the 11-11. I've got them right at the 11-22. And then I made a special jig that I put in my drill press. And the drill press, I bought another special bit that cuts a circle of any diameter that I want, up to about 7 inches. And so what I do is I set the board into my drill press, into this jig, which amounts to just a holder for it. So I put that into the drill press, and then I run this special bit down, and it cuts a circle, or a groove rather, into the board. So the groove is at about 6 3/16 inches outside diameter, and the groove itself is about 3/8 of an inch wide. And so, and then I run it about 5/8 to 11/16 or so deep into the board. So then after that is all grooved out with that special cutter, then I'm able to set a ring down inside of that groove. And that will end up being the bottom of the board. And then I take a not biodegradable, but it's bio-friendly, 2-part epoxy that I add a little bit of colored pigment to, and I mix it all up together, and I pour that into the groove where the tensor ring is sitting, and it hardens. It gets super, 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 super hard. In fact, you can run a knife on it and you won't chip it. Very hard. And then from there, I do the final sanding after that. And then what you end up with is, on the bottom side of the board, you end up with a ring. And I've been doing different colored rings. You can custom order a ring, if whatever color you want, like cobalt blue or brown or copper or pink or yellow, whatever colored circle ring you want on the back, you can get that. However, I am going to start limiting the different colors due to demand. Is most people tend to just want a copper colored ring, which is interesting, or a mahogany colored ring. So not everybody likes the color. So I've been slowly weaning away from that for the last few months. Mm-hmm. So did that make sense, the process I explained there?
Yeah. It's
okay.
just kind of hard because it's you kind of got to get a visual of it, so you can't really like see like it, like how you're doing. But I mean, it sounds interesting, especially somebody like me who likes to cook, it sounds really interesting.
That's what will be nice about you doing that article for the magazine for us. We're in Natural Awakenings in Minnesota, and you doing that article for us, we'll be able to have the picture of it. So that'll be so amazing.
That'll be awesome. You know what? I can send you a photo, a couple photos of what these cutting boards look like. And actually, if anyone's interested in seeing what these look like, I've got a website that has a number of photos of these cutting boards on it, as well as a couple
some of the other things
videos
that you do, right? Some of the other furnishing you do?
Which I haven't started really advertising that very much just yet.
Okay.
Reason being is I've got, I'm in the process of, I moved my workshop from one spot to another, and it's taken me a few months to get it moved over and set up. So I'm still in the process of getting that part underway.
Sure.
However, it'll be ready to go here, I'm hoping, by October.
Okay.
So, pretty excited for that to happen.
So is this what you do as your main job, is making cutting boards or our furniture?
Yeah, it's what I'm doing is I'm starting off with the cutting boards, because it's something that's simple. It's something that can be shipped to any state, and it's something that will it'll create a steady stream of income to really just kind of fund getting the shop built out, and then also give me practice in basically online sales and just basically getting my business set up. And after I'm done with the cutting board piece, I've got plans for all kinds. And when I say all kinds, I mean all kinds of home furnishings and things that I'll be putting these technologies into. And, for example, I've got plans for a bed right now that have you ever seen those copper pyramids for people to sit in and meditate?
Yep.
They're pretty cool. And I can't remember what you call them, like a meditation chamber or something like that.
Oh yeah. I think we were in one at one of the things we went to over here in Minnesota. I think they have one at the state fairgrounds or whatever that time we were there.
Maybe. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it was.
So I'm making beds that have basically a meditation chamber over them. The other thing too is, and I love doing this, is one of the things that I'm working on right now, and I've got my first client or first people signing up for this. So I'm really excited to put this process underway. Is I make beds for couples, and what I do is I look at your birth date. So I look at your astrological sign.
Okay.
And
Taurus.
Look at your
Gemini.
got the talker and we got the grounding element.
Yeah, Taurus.
I love it.
Taurus and a Gemini.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's a good mix. I love it. And then I look at your numerology, and then I look at what number you guys are like as a couple.
Right.
And so then what I do is when I figure out what that number is, I incorporate that number into every feature of the bed. For example, I built a table for you. We spoke about my sister Connie and Fancy Ray a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I made them a dining room table.
Oh, that dining room table in their side. I think I saw it. That long table.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, you made that?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I have seen the table.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. And that table. See, Fancy Ray, he loves the number 3. It's all about transformation and change, and so what it is, why it fused that number into every aspect of the table.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the table itself breaks down into 3 pieces. The tabletop has 3 pieces of wood. Every table base is made out of 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to say every table base is made out of 6 pieces of wood, which is 2 3s.
Yep.
And then there are a number of places where I took 3 holes or 3 basically I would drill a hole and fill it with a different colored wood, and I would space those at 3 inches apart.
Okay.
And so 3 is infused throughout that entire table, and that table itself is also built according to the golden ratio. And so it's interesting because when you look at a piece of furniture and you get that initial impression of the furniture itself, at least for me, I notice when something is built according to the golden ratio and when something is not.
Right.
And when something is, there's something that just draws you into it. It's like it's like there's something about it. You can't put your finger on it, but something just feels good about that piece of furniture. And you don't really know why, but it just feels good. And so that table has got the golden ratio built throughout the whole thing. Every dimension on it, for example, it's 30 inches tall. It's 30 inches tall. And there's a number of the legs sit back in 18 inches deep. And then the next connecting piece between where the legs sit and where the gusset goes up to in the middle table is 36 inches. The golden ratio typically goes between 1 and then you double on the next piece. So it's, it's 1.618 to the next piece. So that's the way I space that out. But anyway, that's part of what I infuse into the furniture is that element. So you get the feeling of it. These beds that I do, the headboard themselves, it's like each side, I dedicate a side to each person, and then there's always some sort of a figure 8 weaving the two together in the headboard. So it's meant to bring a couple together.
Well, we've ran out of time, and this was definitely an interesting conversation. Some of the stuff you do. If somebody wants to see your stuff, your cutting boards, you got a website or something people can check you out on, or and there will also be. Sure. As Rachel was saying, there will also be something in Natural Awakenings magazine if you live in the Minnesota area.
Yep. In November, this podcast is coming out in November, and he will be doing an article for us in November. So, and he's sending us some pictures, and I'll be able to have that on our stuff. And if you want to give us your website, that would be awesome.
Certainly. The website where you can view the frequency cutting boards and schedule a free conversation with me to talk about the project that you may want to do for your home, if you're looking for a bed or a table or anything like that, can all be found at wolfbuilt.com. And that is spelled out WULFF. Yes, WULFF. BUILT.com.
Okay.
Wolfbuilt.com.
Wolfbuilt.com. So yeah, definitely check out that website, and definitely order yourself a cutting board.
Or future furniture. Yeah. Absolutely.
Makes a great Christmas gift.
Yes, it does. And between probably around Thanksgiving time or so, whenever this comes out, I will be running some specials on those cutting boards.
Absolutely.
For people to sell as gifts or to give away as gifts. So.
Okay. So Gail,
excited.
Thank you so much. This is definitely an interesting conversation. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll let Rach close us out.
All right, you guys. Once again, we come to an end. History is born on lines of hate. On here, we are trying to build lines of love and trying to make you guys be your best advocate. If you guys like what you've heard, please subscribe and tell others. Chris, go ahead and shut us down.
Again, Gail, I'd like to thank you for joining us, and thank you too for joining us on Infusion, the podcast. Take it easy.